In the middle of the summer, I moved to a new antique booth location, and this time my booth space is tiny. In today's video, I'm going to tell you why I made that move. Hi there, my name's Melanie and I'm the owner of Lost and Found, which is an antique booth and vintage reselling business. I've been doing that for 11 years now, and here on this channel I'd like to share with you guys just kind of what I'm doing with my business along the way in hopes that it will help you in your vintage reselling businesses. I'm coming to you guys today from my master bedroom, which is a little bit different, and this is the reason why. Say hello to little kitty. We found her in a restaurant parking lot the night before school started, which is now 5 days ago. And I'm kind of a sucker for lost animals. I couldn't leave her there. So we took her home and she's been living in my bedroom since then. She's been a lot of fun, but she's doing very kittenish type things, which means it's been some extra work on my plate this week. But thankfully I have a friend coming to adopt her here in a couple hours. I have to just kind of hang out with her here in the mornings. So if she starts attacking the camera or me during this video, then you guys will understand at least what's going on. But let's dive in though to the topic of the video today. And I'm titled this video Straight Talk about my business, because that's what I want to offer you guys today. So like I said, I've been doing this now for 11 years and my business hasn't always looked the same. I started with one small booth, moved to one larger booth, then I had 2 locations, then I went back to 1 location, then I had a new second location, then I had a full brick and mortar store for 2 years, then I moved back into a booth, and now I'm in a teeny tiny booth. So it's changed a lot along the way. Those decisions that I made were based upon the needs of my business and the needs of my family. So this decision is no different. So the owner of the new spot where I'm at has said that lots of people have come in, been asking for Lost and Found to see my booth space. And then when she shows it to them, they're surprised because this is basically it. Like you guys, it's just one wall and it is 2 shelves of my Fusion Mineral Paint products, and then a few other little things that I've got room to put in there. But that's it. And she said people are always really surprised. And I understand why you guys are, because you see me out buying this other stuff, and I'm talking about selling this other stuff. And so you go to my booth, and it's tiny, and it's just paint, and you're wondering, wait a minute, what's going on? At the start of the year, I made a video talking about how my booth wasn't performing how I wanted it to. I had this large, kind of long booth space. A third of it was for Fusion Mineral Paint. Another third of it was for redesign with Prima transfers. And then the final third of it was for furniture and vintage items. So my Fusion Mineral Paint always sold great. My redesign with Prima transfers just never really took off. And then my vintage items weren't particularly selling, or not selling as well as I wanted them to. In that video that I'm going to link up here, you can go back and watch a little bit more about that. I don't want to rehash it right here. But the point is, I tried the things that I knew I needed to try, and it didn't improve. So I was staring at this big booth, and I'm paying for all this square footage. For 2/3 of it, that space just isn't really selling anything. Hi. See, here we go. You gonna join us? You gonna be a part? All right, I guess she's gonna hang out back there. One of the things I could have done was divide into 2 booth spaces and have a booth just for paint and then a booth just for vintage. But I'm going to be really honest with you guys and with myself right now. I don't have the time for that. I just don't have the bandwidth to pull that off. So that was not the solution to the problem. So I was approached by one of my regular paint customers. She sells a ton of painted furniture, literally from a store that is right across the street from where my booth location was. And even though that store is super close, it has a completely different customer base. The store that I was in primarily was selling collectibles and primitives, smaller items. And the store across the street is selling a ton of painted furniture, new and some vintage home decor. So because the item that was doing so well for me was furniture paint, it made sense for me to be in a location where all the painted furniture was, and where the people who are shopping for furniture are coming. If you want to learn more about that idea of finding the right booth location for what you're doing, you can check out this video here. I talk more about that there. So my friend said, hey, a spot is opening up. The owner has asked if you want to bring Fusion Mineral Paint over here. The store is full of pieces painted in Fusion Mineral Paint. Why don't you check it out? And literally the only space she had for me was half of a booth. It was one wall. a booth space that she was dividing in half, and she could give me a wall. But because it was going to be such a great fit for my paint, which is the product that is currently selling really well for me, I couldn't turn it down. I moved in there at the end of June. I've now had a great almost 2 months there, and it's going great. So what about my vintage then? What am I doing with it? Am I still selling vintage? Yes, I'm still selling vintage, but right now it is almost 100% online. And here's why I made that decision. Number one, I'm getting better prices online. Two, selling online doesn't require me to carry any large pieces. So my booth spaces have never been the types of spaces where it's just shelves filled with smalls. I've always had booths that have been staged more like rooms, where I sell pieces of furniture, big pieces, and then I stage my smalls on those items. That's the kind of booth space that I like to curate. But that requires me keeping and stocking large pieces. And y'all, I just don't have the time to hunt down large pieces right now, not in the stage of life that I'm in. And honestly, the supply of them where I am is dwindling. For me to find good, regular, large pieces, I would need to be spending every weekend kind of scouring out in the outer areas around me. And I'm just not wanting to do that right now, not where I'm at with my family and my kids. So at the end of the day, you guys, this was 100% a business decision. The mall that I was at was great. If I would have been willing to separate my booth into 2 different locations, have a small booth for paint and a booth for vintage, I think that I could have done really well there, but I just couldn't pull that off. I only have so many hours in the day. I have to be honest and realistic about what I can produce. All right, guys, in the second half of this video, I've got 5 takeaways for you, things that I want you to think about as you're evaluating your own antique booth or reselling business, things that I've been learning from this situation that I'm in right now. But before we do that, I want to pause real quick and tell you about the sponsor of today's video, and that is Micello Foundation. So Micello reached out to me and offered to let me try some of their oil-free foundation. And I'm going to be really honest with you guys, I typically don't wear liquid foundation. It kind of slides around all over my face. It's heavy. I don't feel like it looks very natural. I tried this product though, and I am a believer. Like, I really, really like it. I have it on right now. I have worn it like full days out flea marketing, working in the garage, stocking my booths, and my face still looks nice. It doesn't get shiny and slimy. In the summertime, I get a lot of melasma here on the bottom, and it has just evened all of that out. I'm a fan. I gotta say that if you're looking for a new foundation product, to give it a try, there is a link right up here that I'm gonna share that is a referral link, so I do make a small commission if you decide to try some of it out. And then there's also a link in my bio. If you try it though, let me know what you think. All right, let's dive into the 5 takeaways though for your business. Takeaway number 1, I want you to be mindful about your business. You know, mindfulness is kind of a buzzword right now. Basically, it just means to pay attention to what's going on. Sometimes because of just life or because we've been doing it for a while or whatever, we just kind of let our businesses run on autopilot. And that can work for a period of time. But in my experience, when my business has started to run on autopilot, that's when I start to miss problems. So you need to always be evaluating, always be looking at your numbers, always be paying attention to what is working and what isn't working for you. And that doesn't necessarily mean every single month, once a quarter, take a look at your numbers, break down your products, look at what is selling. I was keeping track in my booth space of what sold every single month and the different percentages for the categories that I had. And consistently, no matter what I did, 75% of my sales were paint. So why would I be paying square footage for stuff that is just not selling? Had I let my business run on autopilot, I would have never paid attention to that because I was still getting a really nice check every month. Everything was fine. But y'all, I was wasting money. I was paying for square footage where stuff wasn't selling. That's what I mean when I be mindful about it. Sometimes things on paper look like they're great, but your business still could be fine-tuned and you could be making it even better if you're making some strategic decisions. All right, number 2, if you're being mindful about your business and you find some places where you can make those strategic decisions, then I want you to double down on those. Double down on what is working. Again, right now, for me, in Northwest Arkansas, locally, Fusion Mineral Paint is what is working. When I had my full brick and mortar store, I had no issue selling painted furniture, selling my vintage items for the prices I wanted to get them. But the 2 years that I spent in my local booth, I couldn't get where I wanted to get with those products. So for now, rather than me continuing to bang my head against the wall and try to make that work, I'm going to focus on what's already working. What part of your business right now is working really well? Double down on that. Maybe your online store is working really well. Maybe your Etsy shop. Maybe it's one particular type of thing that you're putting in your booth that's working really well. Maybe it's your painted furniture. Maybe you're getting a lot of requests to custom paint furniture for people. Sometimes the thing that's working really well isn't the thing we most necessarily want to do. And so we can kind of just let it sit to the side. But because I'm running a business, I've got to focus on what's working. All right, takeaway number 3, you need to be willing to adapt and make changes. Like I said earlier, in 11 years of business, my business has looked different along the way. I've opened locations, I've closed locations, I've tried products, I've gotten rid of products. We are in kind of a weird environment right now. Some of this business with the economy, at least in my customer base, it's finally trickled down and I'm starting to see some effects, how much people are willing to spend. You guys, right now, we just have to adapt to that. Just because I don't have room in my booth space right now to sell vintage doesn't mean that it's always going to be that way. So for right now, I'm going to sell vintage online. And then I'm going to be asking and waiting and looking for a bigger spot to open up at the new store. If you're in this for the long haul, it's probably not going to look the same the whole time you're in business. Okay, takeaway number 4 is to stop wasting your money on too much inventory or space that you're renting that isn't actually moving product. So recently I've watched 2 videos by YouTubers, Amanda from Amanda's Mercantile. Her video is right here. And then I discovered Lori from Lori Tata. Now she is more of a clothing kind of Poshmark reseller. Her video is right up here. Both of these videos though talk about downsizing their inventory. And when I watched these videos, I was like, hallelujah, yes, that is what I have been preaching for years. We need less stuff. And I will hear back from people, well, Melanie, if you don't have it, you can't sell it. And that is true. However, you may have it, but you don't have the time to deal with it. And so it's sitting in your garage in plastic tubs and you're not selling it anyway. If you're buying so much stuff that it just sits there because you don't have time to clean it, price it, tag it, photograph it, whatever you're doing, you're buying too much stuff. And then you're putting money on a shelf to just sit there. In general, we don't need that much inventory. You need enough to keep your booths stocked, to have a variety, and you need to match about the average level of what you're selling every month. Having too much inventory is a 100% recipe for getting overwhelmed, for not paying attention to your profit margins. Go watch both of those videos. They were a great reminder. Your issue may not be that you have too much inventory. Maybe it's that your space is too big. That was my problem. Stop and take a minute and look at that. Make sure that you're not just continuing to pour money into your business and it's not producing for you back at the rate that you want it to. So if you want to really dive into this idea of inventory management, how much should you have, why it's not great to have more than what you need, I made a whole video about it right here. It's going to explain it a lot more in detail, and I hope it'll help you wrap your head around the fact that more isn't necessarily better. More doesn't necessarily mean more money in your pocket. All right, that's going to lead me to number 5, because I know the follow-up question is, but if I have less stuff to sell, then how can I scale my business? How can I get my business to where I'm making full-time money or where I'm making regular income? So to get there, you guys, I'm going to be really honest with you. You've got to be willing to invest in some other revenue streams. I've had comments before on the channel and they've said, I don't see how she's making the money that she claims to make, which one, I've never made any sort of claim about how much money that I make. But the comments have said something like, she can't be making that much money because she's not selling that much. I am not rich from what I do for this business, but I do pay myself a paycheck every single month and it goes into our family budget. And I've been doing that for 6+ years. The way to grow this is to consider adding some other revenue streams into what you're doing. So how I have always made it work is I sell physical products, but I do other stuff, you guys too. I do this YouTube channel. I have a blog that I've been writing for 10 years. I monetized that blog 7 years ago, and that has generated monthly revenue for me every month. I have been selling Fusion Mineral Paint online for 7 years. I've done personal shopping for people. I've done custom furniture painting for people. I've painted cabinets for people. I've done a lot of different things, and all of that money kind of dumps into one pot, and that's what I get paid from. So yes, it's almost impossible to make a living off of just selling 15 to 20 vintage items a month. Of course, that's not going to work that way, but you could sell 15 to 20 vintage items a month and do some personal shopping for someone and lead some guided flea market trips for someone and maybe start your own YouTube channel, right? And of course, those things take time to grow. I didn't start making money at those things immediately over time. That's how I built my business. I built my business with multiple revenue streams. So if you're in a place right now, like me, where maybe you're having to scale down, maybe you're having to scale back, check out some other revenue streams. What else can you add to your business that's kind of related to this vintage reselling? And yeah, it may not make you money immediately, but I'll tell you what, you guys, I'm glad I started that blog 10 years ago. I really am. That work that I did on that is paying off for me now. Sometimes it takes time to build those revenue streams, but that's what has always worked for me. All right, you guys, that's what I've got today. I hope that you have enjoyed this. I hope that it's been helpful for you. If it has been helpful for you, then please give me a thumbs up. Remember, you can also always offer us a super thanks where you can leave our channel a tip. That helps support my channel too. I appreciate you guys so much. I hope this video was refreshing. Just some straight talk about this is what I'm doing. Here's where I'm at. This is how I'm going to try and make it work. So hopefully I'll be back with you here soon in about a week, and happy selling to everyone between now and then.